Now, Donald Trump is leading by a country mile among the Republicans. He has a sit-down with Chuck Todd at Meet the Press. Well, he should meet the press. We should find out what his policy positions are because this guy might actually win. All right, so now let's go to the tape. Where does he get his military advice from? This is hilarious.
Who do you talk to for military advice right now?
Well, I watch the shows. I mean, I really see a lot of great, when you watch your show and all of the other shows and you have the generals
So
and you have certain people that
But
you
is there
like.
somebody, is there a go-to for you?
Probably there are two
every
or three.
presidential candidate has a go-to.
Probably there are two or three. I mean, I like Bolton. I think he's tough cookie, knows what he's talking about. Jacobs is a good guy.
You mean Ambassador John Bolton?
Yes.
You mean Colonel Jack
terrific.
Jacobs?
Colonel Jack Jacobs is a good guy, and I see him on occasion.
So he watches television for his military advice. What do Hogan's Heroes think? Maybe we should consult them. I'm amazed, man. He asked, do you have military advisors? He says, yeah, probably two or three. In other words, no. What do you mean probably? You either have military advisors or you don't. When asked to name who the military advisors, he says that Bolton guy. He doesn't even know his full name. And Bolton was not a military person. He never served in the military. Of course, he's a chicken hawk, right? He was unbelievably our UN ambassador. He's the guy who said he'd like to blow up 10 floors of the UN. He was Bush's UN ambassador. Couldn't even get confirmed by the Senate because he was so wild and radical. And he's like, yeah, he's my military advisor, that Bolton guy on Fox. I like him. And then Colonel Jacobs. He's actually a pretty decent guy. I know him a little bit, and he's very smart and doesn't really agree with John Bolton on very many things at all. So that makes no sense. Right? But it's Donald Trump. He doesn't have to make sense. Yeah, probably. Yeah, that Jacobs guy I saw, and Seinfeld and Abbott, but not Costello. That guy's crazy. Okay, and Bolton. No, not John. Michael. This is how he's making decisions, right? All right, let's keep going here.
What are U.S.-Saudi relations going to look like under a Trump administration?
Well, one thing they'll look like, first of all, I get along very well. They pay me millions of dollars for apartments, okay? I like that. Saudi Arabia makes $1 billion a day, okay? They make $1 billion a day. Mm-hmm. Saudi Arabia, if it weren't for us, they wouldn't be there. They wouldn't exist. They should pay us. It's like Kuwait. When Kuwait had the problem with Saddam Hussein, like the ultimate problem, they were taken over. We go in, we fight.
We were paid for that war. They did. We had other countries that paid back some stuff.
We got nothing.
It's not true. We didn't get nothing. Chuck Todd is right. We actually did get paid for that. That's why I thought George H.W. Bush actually handled that war fairly well. He got an actual coalition. They paid for the war. Anyway, we go to Trump. What do you think of the Saudis? Hey, they give me millions of dollars. I like them. They're good guys. But they should give me more because they make $1 billion a day. They should just give us the money. It gives you a sense of how unsophisticated he is. The reality is actually the Saudis do provide us a tremendous amount. So how? Well, we provide for their defense. Let's keep it real. He's right. If we weren't there, Saddam Hussein would have taken over Kuwait and Saudi Arabia a long time ago. And then after Saddam, others would have taken him over. Saudi Arabia doesn't have a real functioning military that could withstand any kind of real fight without the backing of the United States. But what do they do in return? Well, they kill oil embargoes for us. They keep oil prices relatively low. It could be much higher. And they use the dollar when selling and buying petrol, mainly selling in their case, right? And that is actually enormously important for the world economy, for the U.S. dollar, and for our markets. So that's a sophisticated way of getting the Saudis to pay us for their security, which we've been doing for decades and decades. But this knucklehead, he doesn't understand any of that. Because they make money. They should give it to me, and then we have it. Hey, that's my Saudi policy. You know what I'm saying? This guy's just like one of the knuckleheads I played football with in New Jersey. That's what he basically boils down to. All right, let's more genius on Ukraine. This one is unbelievable.
And why are we leading the charge in Ukraine?
So you don't think Ukraine's
I don't like what's happening with Ukraine.
Yeah.
But that's really a problem that affects Europe a lot more than it affects us. And they should be leading some of this charge.
So you wouldn't allow Ukraine into NATO?
I would not care that much, to be honest with you, whether it goes in or doesn't go in. I wouldn't care.
But how could you not care? Okay, wait, all right. If Ukraine is in NATO, that would mean that when Russia goes into Ukraine, which it is certainly alleged to have done, we would have to go to war with Russia. That would be a very big deal. Now, the genius of Trump's antics on Ukraine is he doesn't appear weak. So Herman Cain would have answered the Ukraine question with, Ukraine, what's my position on Ukraine? Right? Trump goes, I don't care about Ukraine. Next. So it's ridiculous, but it has the appearance, the facade of appearing strong. All right. Now, speaking of strong, let's hear his pearls of wisdom on Iran.
I would have told him up front, by the way,
sanctions relief?
We will never give you back your money. We will never
Period.
give you back your $150 billion. You're never getting that money back. That's number one. Number two, before we start negotiations, you have to give us our 3 prisoners. Now it's 4. They are going to be such a wealthy, such a powerful nation. They're going to have nuclear weapons. They are going to take over parts of the world that you wouldn't believe. And I think it's going to lead to nuclear holocaust. And I will say this. The people that negotiated that deal, namely Kerry and his friends, are incompetent.
They're dum-dums, babies, losers. That's what they are. Now we've gotten so used to the bombast, not just from Trump, but from all Republicans, that he throws a nuclear holocaust line in there, doesn't even make news. Nobody talked about that in regards to this interview. Like, oh yeah, obviously, Iran will do a nuclear holocaust. No, this prevents them from having nuclear weapons. This bombast, by the way, is working for the Republicans because American people now view the deal as deeply unpopular. But we stopped their nuclear program. It doesn't matter what the truth is. You just keep saying, they're going to kill us all. They're going to get nukes. They're going to do nuclear holocaust. We just take their money, the $150 billion. So we just take it. But first of all, it wasn't just us. We got all of these different countries, including China, Russia, and Europe, to work with us to stop and freeze the Iranian assets. It's not our money. It's Iranian money. And we can't just unilaterally say to France and to Russia, hey, yeah, that Iran's money, the $150 billion, give it to me instead. Just give it to me. That's not how it works. They wouldn't have done that. And if you had an idiot like Trump running the country, well, they would have never agreed to freeze the Iranian assets in the first place. Wildly counterproductive as usual, having no attachment to reality, but it doesn't matter. It sounds strong. Okay. Now, how about the idea that all this doesn't seem to make much sense? Does he know what he's talking about? Is he even smart? Well, he has an interesting defense of that. Let's watch.
Some of the greatest business minds in the world have
I understand,
Wharton,
but why do you feel it's important to tell us that all the time?
I'll tell you what, because everybody knows what a great school it is. Everybody knows that to get into Wharton is probably the hardest school to get into. It's, right there, within a couple of
Ivy League, no question.
You have to be very smart. If you're a conservative Republican, you go in. Look, if I were a liberal Democrat, people would say I'm the super genius of all time. The super genius of all time. If you're a conservative Republican, you got to fight for your life. It's really an amazing thing.
Here's what super geniuses don't say. They would call me a super genius of all time. You see Bill Gates going around saying, hey, look, everybody always calls me a super genius. Okay, that's what I am. I'm a super genius. Okay. Now, a lot of conservatives I know might be thinking, hey, come on, Wharton, top business school in the country, in the world. You got to give Trump credit for that. I mean, what do you know, you knucklehead lib? You don't know anything about business. Anybody who goes to Wharton, they know business. They should be listened to. Oops, I went to Wharton. So, take that to the bank, it doesn't mean a goddamn thing. Okay, and I met a lot of knuckleheads at Wharton. So yes, these days getting into Wharton is very hard. It's actually much harder than when I went. And much, much harder than when Trump went. And Trump got in there because he's smart. He keeps telling Obama to release his college records, right? Why does Obama didn't have any connections. He wasn't, the son of a multimillionaire as Trump was. He got into Columbia, presumably because he got good grades. The reason Trump doesn't believe him, he's like, well, I know my experience. What's Trump's records? Give me your college transcript. He's never given that either. The reason is because Dum-Dum got in because his dad was loaded. That's how he got into Wharton. And then he goes around and said, Wharton means I am smart, super genius. Super genius says, I don't care if Ukraine's in... if a liberal came in and said, hey, I would like to represent progressives, and I don't care if Ukraine's in NATO or not, yeah, we'd call him a super genius. No, we'd run him out of town. We'd tar and feather him and go, what an idiot. We don't want that guy representing us. Super genius. Okay, now, in the midst of all this, he is actually going to say something that is very true. Let's watch.
A lobbyist called me yesterday, one of the biggest. He said, Don, I want to give $5 million to your campaign. I said, I don't want it. I don't need your money. I don't want it. Because if he gives me $5 million, all of a sudden I guarantee he's going to call and say, you know, I represent such and such a company. Look, when Jeb Bush raises $114 million, I know those people that gave him the money. I used to be one of them. I mean, I gave to everybody, okay? I know those people. He's like a puppet for those people. He's a puppet. Those people, they'll take negative ads on me and on other people because they want him in there, because they're going to control Jeb Bush. And not only Jeb, they're going to control Hillary. She raised $60 million plus. They're going to control whoever's in.
That's so true that it scares me to death. On that alone, he might get elected president of the United States. Because everybody in America knows that that is the most core truth you can say in politics, that all those people are controlled. They're just puppets. The donors are the puppet masters, right? But nobody else says that because they all take money and they need the money. And even most of the Democrats are like, especially Hillary Clinton, obviously, oh, hit the main vein right there. Oh, donor money. Love it. That's why Hillary Clinton's establishment, that's why Barack Obama's establishment. Now, to be fair, Bernie Sanders does not take super PAC money, and he's not in this conversation. And by the way, that's why Bernie Sanders also surging among the Democrats, because people are sick of the corruption. Now, I mean, they have a super ironic candidate that they have coalesced around on the Republican side, a guy who is a billionaire himself and used to buy politicians, and by the way, tomorrow would go back to buying politicians, but is saying, hey, I'm so rich, I don't need to buy them. And the Republicans are saying, yeah, that's our guy, because they hate the corruption that much. Man, boy, people who want to get money out of politics, they have found the most ironic candidate to champion their cause you could ever imagine. And don't mistake his success. It is not because he's a Cro-Magnon man on Iran and Ukraine, etc. That last answer there is a huge part of the predominant reason why he's winning right now. I wish other candidates would realize that, who are actually smart and progressive and can lead in the right direction. Bernie Sanders has realized it. Larry Lessig has realized it. We're waiting on everybody else.